Hey guys, today I'm going to talk about a very obscure collecting area, and that is cutaways. Now, it's never good to start off by saying, I don't know much about cutaways, but I'm going to show them to you anyway. That's what's happening. Okay, I'm going to take a stab at cutaways, even though I don't know a lot about them. I don't collect them. There are people out there who collect them, and they can be very expensive because they are very rare. So I want to show them to you just because I have them in from a friend, a collector friend who does collect cutaways. I have these here, and I think it's important to show them to you. There might be some of you out there that know a lot more. It's probably likely you know more than I do, but it's still worth taking a look at. I also want to mention one thing about my gloves. I often get comments about, you look ridiculous, why do you wear those gloves? And usually people reply and say, well, that's out of respect for the gun. I want to protect the gun. That's true, but I also want to protect my hands. These are brand new, pure white, and we're going to see what they look like at the end of this video. And imagine handling guns all day. So you'll see at the end. Okay, let's talk about cutaways. Come on up and look over my shoulder and check these out. Okay, first for this display stand, I want to thank Scott. He made this for us. It is for all Walders, but it did work for other guns. More or less it worked. Cutaways are usually thought of as dealer samples. However, like this one was made for the military, so it's also used for training. I don't know every use for cutaways. They definitely are a real variation. They are definitely rare. And there's a lot of people who don't want them just because they're not shootable. You can see that with all the holes cut into the gun, including the barrel and the magazines, it would be a dangerous proposition to try to shoot one of these. But they do use them for display, and even if you go to gun shows today and if they have a display for Glocks, they're liable to have a Glock cutaway. The earliest cutaway I've ever seen was a broom handle, C96. And that's the earliest cutaway I've ever seen. Now, I also have seen single action army antique pistols that were cut away, but they were all either second generation or third generation. I'm not aware of original single action army pistols, antique pistols that were cutaways, but if you have one or have seen one, let us know. We'll share that information. On this display, these are the ones that I picked up from one gentleman. This is the earliest one because this is a pre-war Walther PPK. Now this one I would collect. Just because it's in my genre, so to speak. This is from a PPK, and you can see how it is cut away. I mentioned this is the earliest one because this is a 90-degree safety. Here's something that most of them have in common. There's no inspection proofs. There's no serial number. Serial number would go here. Instead, we can see a spring right here with no serial number. Pull this down, and it moves that spring. Okay, so there's the first use of the cutaway. Here is the signal indicator pin, which I'm going to take my little pointy thing and, okay, watch the back of it. When you load a round into it, it pushes this back, and then you can see that it has a live round in it. That's important with a semi-automatic because sometimes people don't realize, hey, they take the magazine out, don't realize there's a round in it. That's a signal indicator pin, and that's what it looks like. If you're real mechanical, this looks familiar to you. I'm not that mechanical. I do know how to take these guns apart, but all these little parts and things, it doesn't mean a lot to me, which is probably why I don't collect these. I started to say this is a 90-degree safety, so we know it's from the early 1930s. This is probably about 1934. There's no inspection proofs here or here. There's the barrel, and it will hold a round. I actually don't have a dummy round for this, but here's the magazine, and you can see how it's cut. People are saying, well, why wouldn't somebody a machinist just take a gun and remove the markings and cut out the parts? Well, the answer is there's not that many people who want one. They are expensive, but one way that I can tell it's original, I already mentioned, there's no proof marks, there's no serial number. Probably was given out by a dealer, maybe to a large store, a large retailer in this economy. It'd be, you go to Cabela's or some big gun shop, they might have one out on display. And you can see here's the PP. This one is later. This is wartime because you see the caliber. This one is Walther banner only. Has the finger extension. You can see they're cut exactly the same, even though this is later, wartime, so 1940s, this is early 1930s. This does have a dummy round in it, so we'll watch that feed. You can see the spring. You can load it up with dummy rounds. This has a tooth missing in the front. Now, I don't know if that's on purpose or not, because that doesn't seem to have anything to do with the Cutaway, other than perhaps if they had these lined up, you could easily see somebody, they wanted to make sure somebody didn't pick this up by accident and put it in a real gun, might cause a problem. And so maybe they did that so that when they're lined up on a shelf, you could see that this was a Cutaway. But I'm just making that up. I don't know for sure. So going back to the PPK, this is actually my favorite one. You can see the action here. Pull the hammer back. You can see how the trigger mechanism works. Pull that back. Pull the trigger. Over here, you can see how the slide comes back. If we put the magazine in, it'll stay back. This is the hold open. You can see how when you push the magazine in, it pushes this bar up, which holds the slide open. When I take this down and go like this, it relieves the tension. That pops back down and it slides forward. That's how the hold open works. So the Cutaway is to show the workings. And again, I think of military bases. They would have them at training centers. We see here the M1 carbine. Here's a Cutaway. I was on an auction this weekend. M1 carbine sold as a Cutaway and probably used at an Army base during World War II. Also the M1 Garand. Here's an example of a Cutaway. So again, training, sales samples. Some of these were captured in the factory. I believe the story on this gun and this gun, the gentleman that I got these from, this came from the Walther factory. So these were captured in the factory. You can see the condition. They're like new, beautiful guns. I mentioned this is a 90-degree safety, meaning it goes all the way down. This is a 60-degree, so it's a little bit later. This one has a wartime magazine. So during the war in the factory, I guess if they had a visiting general who was putting in an order, this had a round in it, by the way. This is, I triple checked. This is a dummy round. So we're going to put the magazine in. You got the dummy round. I'm going to pop this magazine in. You see how it goes in. Pop that in. The bullet is right there because even the barrel is cut open. So you don't want to shoot this gun. And we're going to slap that in there and you can see the bullet. Now, how do we get rid of the bullet? We'll do it again and it'll fly out the ejection port right here. There you go. That's how this works. So there's a Cutaway PP and a Cutaway PPK, early 1930s, early 1940s. Okay, now Walther liked Cutaways, or this collector likes Walthers, because this is the next Cutaway, post-war, P5, so more of a modern gun. And by the way, mechanically, it works a lot like a P38. And there are P38 Cutaways. I don't think I've ever had one go through my hands. We've sold a couple Cutaways over the years, but I don't remember a P38. This works a lot like a P38, but it's a post-war. Here's the magazine. Also, we have a dummy round. And so same thing, you put the dummy round in. Okay, we can kind of see as the magazine comes in. This is 9mm, by the way, 9x19, which I believe is a Luger round. Now, I don't collect these, but P5s, again, they're a very cool weapon, and they function a lot like a P38. This is a Cutaway. This was a dealer sample, not made for war. And it does have a serial number, and it came in this box. So S324, I can imagine would be a sample, so like a dealer's sample, number 324. I guess they could do as many 300 as 300. If they were sending them out to retailers all over the world, it's possible that they made at over 300 to 400 as samples. Let's see. You can see the barrel is cut here. You can see the springs. And when I pull this back, you can see how the spring tightens. And then you'll see me feed the 9mm round in it. That's kind of hard not to cover it up, but let's do that. There it is. That makes, I don't know about you, but it makes me nervous when I see a bullet like that. So we'll just go ahead and get rid of it. There we go. That one went flying. And then again, you pull the pull down lever. Let's go ahead and do that. You take this pull down lever, take down lever, slide this forward. First you have to take the magazine out. This is a push button mag instead of a button mag, bottom release. And pop this forward. And it comes right off. and you can see the inside. Again, it works a lot like a P38. You can see how the barrel locks. Has this little, when you push it in, the barrel locks in there. So the Cutaway, the purpose of the Cutaway, it's just fun to play around with this. This is an aluminum frame, by the way. Kind of fun to play around with this, but I'll pull this back, pop the lever down, go forward, drop the hammer, nice and careful. There's the magazine. So that's the Cutaway P5, which is more of a modern gun, and again, went to dealers. Let's take the Luger next. You can see right there, that shiny object in there, that is a bullet. This is unusual in that I see 06. So right here, this says 06. There's no serial number under the barrel where there normally would be. You can see the head of the bullet, and you can see the Cutaway here. There's the mainspring, and the magazine is just a standard Black Widow magazine. I started to say this is from 1941. This would say BYF or Mauser right here, but 06, 06. So all matching 06 tells me this was in the Mauser factory and it was Cutaway number 6. So they had at least 6. Put the magazine in. You can see the magazine, how it goes in. And if we see the bullet right here and we pull the toggle up, you see that move. And it will eject out the top. Let's try it. There it goes. And now it's lost forever. Toggle stays up. You can see how the toggle is cut. Toggle is cut here. Safety lever shows the action here. This is all, you know, as much as I like that PPK, this is pretty cool. A Mauser from World War I, Cutaway. So dealer sample, probably put on military bases for demonstration for the troops that are in training. Here you see the trigger spring, trigger bar right there, takedown lever, and the side plate comes off. So an all-matching Mauser from 1941, Cutaway, very rare gun. Not sure on the value. I'll have to look these up because they have sold on auctions, but again, they're very, very rare. Okay, obviously a 1911 A1. There's a mainspring housing saying it's an A1. So this is from World War II. So not only did the Germans and European countries do the Cutaway, this is from the mid-war period, so it was being used by the U.S. military. I already showed you the Garand and the M1 carbine. This is a Remington, which would be the same as an Ithaca and a Colt, and even a Singer generally other than the finish, the workings are all the same. So here you can see the holes cut out, so you can see the operation. In that first hole, boy, this doesn't sound good. In this first hole, you can see the barrel bushing, and that of course comes off, and then the barrel will come out, and yeah, it's just fun to kind of do all that. And we can turn this over and you see even more is cut out. There's a spring, recoil spring. Oh, I can show you the trigger as I pull it. If you watch this action right here, as we pull this back, see that little notch? Well, let's pull it all the way back. Pull that back, you pull the trigger. But what I wanted to show you is just a little, when you half cock it, there's just a little notch right there where it'll stop. Right there, and that holds it in place. So it's half cocked. Cock it the rest of the way. And then say, oh, you can't pull the trigger unless you have the grip safety on. And then it'll fire like that. And you can see all the parts. It's fun to take apart, see how this works. You can see the recoil spring at the bottom. And this has got strong recoil spring. I'll put the magazine in. And you can see the recoil spring as it pulls back. There's part of the barrel there. And it stays back, and you can see how the spring is compressed. There's no serial number, there's no proof marks. There would be no inspector stamp, no P here, no serial number. Of course, that's all cut away. You can see how the trigger is pulled back, and even the grips have been cut away. The last one I wanted to show you is very unique, but it is the Liberator. Now this was actually made post-war. It was Vintage Ordnance, made replicas of the Liberator, and they made a Cutaway, just to show how it would work. So you had extra rounds in here. This is welded shut, but normally you would pop this off, put the extra rounds in here, then you'll notice it's been plugged. And if I pull this out, which is how it works, you pull this out, it's been plugged here. So there's no way of mistakenly firing this one, but it does show how it works. You see the spring, and I think they made these originally for they made 1 million of them at about $2 a piece, made by about 100 women in like a month. You pull this up. You can't put a bullet in there, but normally you'd put the .45 caliber, drop it down, bring this around, and then pull the trigger. And then it would show how this pops forward and fires. Let's do it again. That was pretty cool. So this is the Liberator again, vintage ordnance. These sold for like between $600 and $700, but it's a cutaway just to show how the Liberator works. And again, the very limited audience that are interested in these, but if you are interested in the cutaways, be sure to contact me, because even though these are not mine, some of them will be up for sale and we could discuss pricing. Of course, availability will probably be limited. Hey, I hope you found that interesting. It's not for everybody, but for some people, it's just a unique thing to collect. And again, if you have interest in cutaways, we will have all these available soon. Thanks for watching, and before I go away, you thought I was protecting the gun. Look at this. And those were like brand new, clean guns. Just imagine if they had been dirty, greasy guns. So I do this to save my hands.